All right, so let's start with this clip when I'm called an Islamist, whatever that means, that I've seen a few days ago by PBD, PDB, whatever their name is. So the funny thing is I've made a video about these people like a year ago now or 2 years ago that got like 300,000, 400,000 views, I don't remember, on my channel where I called them out for the lies, for the same idea they're trying to push in this clip. Now they're reacting to my clip. So they avoided and ignored and ran away from an actual discussion from me and them, one-to-one discussion, which I called them to. And now they're going reacting to my clips and pretending they don't know who this person is. They just called me an average Islamist or whatever. I'm sure your team have seen my video that I made about you, over 300,000 views. I'm sure they've seen it. I'm sure you know exactly who I am. So to pretend you're just like reacting to some random person's clip and calling them an Islamist. But let's actually watch what these people are saying about us. You know, they've become so irrelevant now they have to react to our own stuff. So let's have a look what they're going to say about me.
If you play that one, it's with Jesse Lee Peterson.
Got it.
And he's asking this Islamist, why do you live in a...
All right, so he mentions Jesse Lee Peterson, and I've done a podcast with him a long time ago. Everyone is welcome to watch that. It was a hilarious thing, to say the least. So they are reacting to a clip of me from that podcast. So let's continue.
White Christian country.
He's asking this Islamist. All right. Why do you live in a white Christian country? Huh? Okay. And by the way, for everyone's benefit, I don't live in a white Christian country. I go to the UK. That's a very old clip. I was there that time. But I don't live in the UK. I go to the UK. I visit. I invite people to Islam because that's what I do. But I don't live in a white Christian country. But anyways, like I said, that's an old clip. So let's watch.
And not in your country. He's so honest about it. But I think it's good for the audience and for you to see. Here, watch this, Vinny.
You live in a white country rather than your own country. You live in
London.
Not a white country. Why do you live in a white country? I'm sorry?
It's not a white country because I want to tell people about Islam. And if I stay in a Muslim country, they're already Muslim. So there's no point of me telling them about Islam, right? So I have to be in a place where people are not Muslim, right? So if I'm in the UK, there is a lot of people who from different religions, different faiths, where I can have dialogue, because this is what I do, right? Interfaith, religious discourse, and all of that. So I engage with different people. Right? Yeah, now, so you see the clip. There is nothing absolutely wrong with this clip. But those people, what they want to do is they want to fearmonger. And I'll tell you what's really funny about this clip. Why did I want to talk about this clip? First is calling them out again, obviously. Let's have a one-to-one conversation. Let's actually talk to each other instead of you going like a little cheerleader, you know, Zionist puppet, little goy and whatever, just trying to react to what I do and what I don't do. Why don't you actually talk to me one-to-one and ask me questions? Now, the funny thing is that they call me, look, he's very honest. Look at this person who's very honest about what he wants to do. And what's funny is that the video I made, like I said, like 2 years ago, I was repeating the same idea that they're trying to say, oh, Muslims are trying to take over or whatever. So he's here calling me honest. At the same time, what they propagate in their show is that Muslims have a hidden plan, secret hidden plan of taking over Europe. So which one is it? Are we honest? Do we tell the people the truth that we're trying to take over as you're trying to portray me in this video? Or are we a bunch of liars that are doing a secret plan inside a mosque that nobody knows about? The inconsistency is hilarious. And now, in the same time, if you're calling me an honest person, if I'm an honest, like you say, an honest Muslim or whatever, then if I'm an honest Muslim, then let's have a discussion. Let's talk to this honest Muslim who doesn't have to hide the conspiracy theory of your secret plans. But like I said, what these people do is this is what they want to do. They want to fearmonger. So because they are Zionist puppets that work for them, they want to do fearmongering, turn the Muslims against the Christians and non-Muslims, make us the enemy and make them ignore the fact that they are. Everyone knows about AIPAC and the control of the actual control of the US government. They want to direct them away from that. And the fact that all their senators visit Israel and kiss the wall and all of that. The fact that he himself has been shown to defend funding of Israel and all of that. They want people to ignore all of that, to forget about the genocide happening in Gaza, to forget about all of these issues that are happening and direct to the Muslims. You know, the Muslims are like 1% in the US or whatever. Oh, look, this 1% of people that are not even controlling our government are the ones who are doing all these bad things. So, oh, look, fear-mongering, worry, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And that's their plan. That's what they really want to do. And that's why they will try to misuse statements of people like me. Yes, what we do is we engage in dialogue with non-Muslims. And I have to be in a place where non-Muslims are there so I can talk to them. Now I'm doing it online. It's the same thing. But that's the funny thing. Aren't they the champions of free speech? Where's the problem in a person admitting, you know what? I want to exercise my right of free speech that you guys love so much. And I want to tell people about my faith. It's free speech. Have I done anything wrong to anyone? No. Have we did violence to anyone? No. So according to you, conservative, free speech is the most important thing in our country. Why are you so upset that I'm telling people that I'm going to go to the West where free speech is exercised? I'm going to talk to the people and I'm going to exercise my right of free speech. This is the funny thing, because they know there's no such thing as free speech. Their free speech is the speech that aligns with what they want. That's the reality of what they want. They want the speech that aligns with their views, but they want to pretend in the same time there is such a thing as free speech. Anyways, let's finish what they're going to say.
Christian move to a Muslim country and freely and openly convert the people from Islam to to Christian?
Well, ideally, under Islamic law, no, you're not allowed to, because Christianity is false while Islam is the truth.
And
so just because you guys are liberal, wait, I'll answer you. Just because you guys are liberals, following liberalism, and you believe that anyone can do whatever they want to do, that does not mean that we're also liberal. We don't allow harmful ideologies for our children. We don't allow rainbow flags in our countries. We don't allow these harmful ideologies to infiltrate into our people. So we are very self-aware of what is the truth, and we try to follow the truth, and we don't allow falsehood to be broadcasted, because Christianity is false while Islam is the truth. Simple. I'm saying something very straightforward and simple, right? You guys are the ones who champion this idea of absolute free speech. Whether you're a liberal, whether you're a conservative, all of you in America and in the West in general champion this idea of free speech. If this is your morals, that's what you believe, why do I need to adopt the same morals? In my Islamic if there was a country anyways where Sharia law is exercised, which we don't have right now, then we're saying under that Islamic state, we don't accept that. We don't have this idea of absolute free speech. We don't believe in absolute free speech. We're not a free speech absolutist. You are. So if you are a free speech absolutist, then why can't you engage in a one-to-one discussion with me and use your free speech, since you are upon the truth and you have nothing to hide? Why don't you use your free speech to engage in a discussion with me and show people, look, this guy has crazy ideas, bad ideas. Look, it's bad because of this reason and that reason and that reason, and therefore don't follow him. And if it was, as you say, we are evil people propagating evil Islamist ideology or whatever term you want to use, then people are not going to follow us. But what you're really afraid of is that people are accepting Islam. Pew Research Institute shows it's the biggest growing religion in the world. You know, people are accepting Islam by choice, because that free speech leads people to recognizing that Islam is the truth. And when they listen to Islam being the truth, when they listen to our evidences, when they listen to what the Quran actually says, they choose to adopt it by their own free choice. So now you don't want free speech anymore because people are accepting Islam. When you don't like Islam, you're a Zionist puppet. So that is what you will avoid, a one-to-one discussion with someone like me. Still, my offer is on the table. If you watch this, Zionist puppet, whoever you are, and you are a non-Muslim, you're a person or whatever, tell him, why don't you have a discussion with this person? Since you, with your own mouth, look, I'm not saying I'm honest. You're saying I'm honest. I'm not the one even making this claim right now. You have said, by your own words, I'm an honest person about what I believe. So bring me and show the people the honesty. And according to you, they should be afraid because our honesty and our truth is so crazy and scary. Then if I'm there, bring me and I'll talk to the people. Just stop running away from, reacting to Muslims. Not just me, you reacted to other Muslim brothers. Stop running away, reacting to us, from your own house, hiding, and let's have an actual discussion, one-to-one discussion with one another. So, like I said, my offer is still on the table. But like I said, I know cowards and puppets will never accept that offer. All right, so let's see what we have here. Apparently, this dude is an ex-Muslim, and he's going to tell us how he would become Muslim again or consider Islam or whatever. Apparently, he's just an ex-Muslim, and he's going to say something. So let's have a look at what this person is going to say.
My family would ask me, Shark, what would convince you to become Muslim again? And it's not a debate about Jesus. It's not about the Trinity. I was so hurt after leaving Islam, I became atheist first. So it has nothing to do with Christianity. It's about the foundation of the Islamic house. So here are 5 things that I would personally need to see. And if you could prove them, I'd listen, because I...
Now look at this funny thing. First, he starts by saying he's an ex-Muslim. Nobody can prove this. Obviously, he's got a cross tattooed here, which is the very common practice. He would obviously claim that was later on or whatever. Can anybody ever prove this dude just because he's brown? So people think brown, therefore he was a Muslim. No, my friend. There are Christians in Asia and in Pakistan and many places as well. And there are Christians in many Arab countries. I don't know what his background is, but either way, whatever his background is, who can prove that this person was actually a Muslim? And now look at the funny thing. He says, here are 5 things, because as if we're trying to convince him, please come back or something. My friend, if you left Islam, you've left the truth. You have binded yourself to eternal damnation. We couldn't, with all due respect, care less whether you will become or you're not going to become. Like, the truth is the truth. Like, whether you're convinced or you're not convinced is not going to change the fact that the truth is the truth. And the funny thing, he says, like, here are 5 things. If you can prove them, I will listen. Not if you can prove them, I'll come back to Islam. No. If you prove them, I might listen to you. What kind of a funny joke is this? So we are supposed to, he thinks somehow that we're salesmen and we're going to like try to impress him somehow and answer all of his questions. And now if we do, well, by the way, it can clearly be an illogical questions, but and if we do, I will listen. Is that it? Really? You will listen? So a lot of these people are like it's really insane, the amount of arrogance that they come with and hypocrisy. So regardless of the fact that we can even show that this person was an ex-Muslim or not, clearly his whole page is about this nonsense, is about talking badly about Islam or somehow or something like that, which is obviously career ex-Muslim. The career ex-Muslims are many, and they just do it for whatever reason, fame, money, whatever the reasons they're doing it for. But in reality, these people, if you've left Islam, then why do you keep talking about Islam? If you're no longer a Muslim, then why you have a whole like video series or channel or whatever talking about Islam? Okay, so anyways, let's hear what are the 5 things that he's going to tell us about.
Care about truth and integrity. And the first thing is, show me the Kaaba was actually built by Abraham and Ishmael, and no late Islamic sources, archaeological evidence, Jewish text, and anything pre-Quran honestly is game. But right now, you have to rewrite the Torah to make it work, and that takes a lot of gymnastics. Second,
all right, so this is the thing. He starts by saying, okay, prove to me that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba, and give me archaeological evidence or give me with Jewish sources. So why are we supposed to provide proof for a historical event, that specific historical event is Abraham building something, through sources like Jewish literature or through sources like archaeological evidence? Why do we need to do that? How does that prove or disprove the religion of Islam? Like, to prove, can you disprove the fact? Now, this is the fact. I'm sure everyone heard this idea, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because I don't have evidence to show specifically, without a shadow of a doubt, with archaeological evidence or from Jewish sources, that Abraham was the one who specifically built the Kaaba, therefore that is not true. That's not how it works. That's not logic. You cannot. That doesn't disprove the idea. That doesn't disprove the Quranic claim. You have no evidence opposite to that. So this is a very funny, false method of argumentation, and this is what probably he's going to do with the other 4 things that he's going to mention. Maybe not. We're going to see. But this is not a way of arguing, anyways. Now, okay, do we have evidence? Now, let's to come to the point, anyways. Do we have any evidence that Ishmael and Abraham were the ones who built the Kaaba? That is something that all the Arabs believed. That's not something that the Arabs did not know or did not believe. Even the uncle of the Prophet, ﷺ, Abu Talib, he has a piece of poetry called Lamiyah. And Abu Talib died as a disbeliever, right? He was one of the leaders of Quraysh. He was the uncle of Prophet Muhammad, but he didn't accept Islam and he died not being a Muslim. And he had a piece of poetry, Alamiyah, where he refers to the building of the Kaaba, refers to Abraham specifically. He says, وَمَوْطِئُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي الصَّخْرِ رَطْبَةٌ عَلَى قَدَمَيْهِ حَافِيًا غَيْرَ نَاعِلٍ. And the footprint of Abraham upon the rock with his feet barefooted, not wearing something. So he talks about the footprint of Abraham, which we still have until this day, the footprint of Abraham, peace be upon him, where he was building the Kaaba. So now here, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, a disbeliever of Quraysh, refers to that specific thing. And he says, وَأَشْوَاطُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْوَتَيْنِ إِلَى الصَّفَا وَمَا فِيهِمَا مِنْ صُورَةٍ وَتَمَاثِلِ. And he says the ashwat, the places of running or pilgrimage, or the places where they used to do the practices of pilgrimage in Mecca, between Safa and Marwa, which is the 2 mountains, and what is in them from idols and pictures. So he's referring to the Kaaba when it was full of idols still. So this is pre-Islamic. And he is talking about Abraham and his footprint when he was building, his footprint on the rock when he was building barefooted the Kaaba. And this is from Abu Talib. And he's talking to Quraysh there, the disbelievers of Quraysh. This was a common belief among the Arabs. This is not something which was like invented by Islam or something. And you know what's the funniest thing? The funniest thing is, if this was not true, if it's not true that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba, the first thing the Arabs will say, this is a lie. Because the Arabs are the ones who lived in that region, and they have the history and the stories from their ancestors. And the first thing they'll say, you're a liar. Actually, no, the one who built the Kaaba is this person or that person. They would instantly disprove Prophet Muhammad. Bring me one person who came to Prophet Muhammad and told him, why does your Quran say that Abraham built the Kaaba? So that is already by itself proof that the Arabs, historically, generation after generation, believed and knew from the start, like this poetry that I mentioned from Abu Talib, believed that the person who built the Kaaba was Abraham and Ismail. That was their belief. And like I said, you cannot disprove this. Like any historian that you'd look at any historian that talked about the history of the Arab, all of them will agree and have consensus that the ones who built the Kaaba were Abraham and Ismail, and that's what the Arabs believed. But all of a sudden, we got this person trying to make like this very absurd argument. You know, and the funny thing is this, I'm going to argue with you the same way. By the way, even if you look at the Torah, you have instances in Genesis, for example, Genesis 16, verse 7, which talks about Hagar and Ishmael. And it has a story that we Muslims have. We have the well of Zamzam, which is in Mecca, where the water continuously comes, which we believe is a blessed well. And we have that story there where the angel comes to Hagar, and there is a blessed well there, and it has a specific name that God gives it, that well, after the angel comes to Hagar. And that story is in the Bible, in Genesis. And it mentions this place, Shur. And this place, Shur, is in northern Saudi Arabia. This place, Shur, is in the deserts of Arabia. So they were there. And it talks about the well that we believe in, the well of Zamzam. And then also the Genesis, again, if you go fast forward a few chapters, talks about Hagar and Ishmael and how they lived in the desert of Paran. The deserts of Paran are the deserts of Arabia, and that they lived there. And that's according to overwhelming majority of historical scholars, even non-Muslim ones, where they say Paran is the deserts of Arabia. It refers to deserts generally, but it refers to the deserts of Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula. So if they lived in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, then obviously Abraham has visited them there. And obviously the Arabs would know about them more than anyone else. So if the Arabs generally believed that Abraham and Ishmael are the ones who built the Kaaba, and none of them ever accused the Prophet Muhammad of lying by making that claim, then this is more than historical proof that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba. But then the last thing I'm going to say this to show you how flawed this method is. I'm going to apply the same method to you. In Genesis 13, verse 18, it talks about Abraham going to a specific location, Mamre in Hebron. And then it says he pitched a tent there, Abraham, in Genesis 13, and he built an altar to the Lord. So Abraham built an altar to the Lord near the great trees of Mamre in Hebron. We know where Hebron is today, and we know where these great trees of Mamre are. Now, can you show me give me proof that Abraham built an altar to the Lord there? We don't even have an altar to the Lord there. But I want you to give me proof that Abraham built that altar to the Lord. I'm going to use the same method with you. Abraham building something. Give me proof that Abraham did build that thing. And honestly, archaeological evidence, any pre-Jewish sources are fair game. I'm going to use their same argument to see how absurd this argumentation is. Because we know when we go back so far to this period in history, we know that we don't have remnants of archaeological evidence that can prove any of that. And we don't have anything other than the history of the Arabs. And the Arabs were not known to write down their history like that. Oh, Abraham did this, Abraham did that. They were not known to do that anyways. They were not that type of a nation. Most of the Arabs at that time were illiterate. So it's a very flawed method. Let's see what the next claim is.
Show me that Muhammad was provably an Ishmaelite, because you can't inherit a covenant if you're not in the bloodline, right?
Now he says, like, show me that Prophet Muhammad is an Ishmaelite, because you cannot inherit the covenant if you're not in the bloodline. What covenant are you talking about? You see, that proves that this guy was never a Muslim. Because we as Muslims don't believe the Prophet Muhammad inherits any covenants. That's a Christian belief. If you want to talk about that, that's a more Jewish kind of even belief, not just Christian. But this idea of the bloodline of David and being from the bloodline and inheriting covenants, we don't have that in Islam. It's not an Islamic belief. Allah chooses prophets and messengers not based on their race. It's based on their piety and Allah seeing their hearts. So this claim itself is flawed, because we don't believe that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet, because he inherited his covenant based on his bloodline. But you said, show me that he was from the lineage of Ishmael. The funny thing that you do not know is that the Arabs have a tradition of preserving the lineages. So, for example, Bukhari would report the lineage of Prophet Muhammad, and we have the full lineage of the Prophet Muhammad. We know that he was from Quraysh, and we know that the Arabs generally preserve their lineages. So, Prophet Muhammad, what was his lineage? You're asking me, showing that he was from Ishmael. I'll show you more than your own lineage that you probably don't know. I'm going to tell you the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad from the Prophet all the way to Ishmael. Prophet Muhammad, his name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Prophet Muhammad, he was Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, the son of Hashim, the son of Abd Manaf, the son of Qusay, the son of Kilab, the son of Murrah, the son of Ka'b, the son of Lu'ay, the son of Ghalib, the son of Fihr, the son of Malik, the son of An-Nadr, the son of Kinana, the son of Khuzaymah, the son of Mudrika, the son of Ilyas, the son of Madr, the son of Nizar, the son of Ma'ad, the son of Adnan, the son of Ismail. So that is the full lineage of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The full lineage from the Prophet Muhammad all the way to Ishmael. Now you do that with any prophet or messenger. You can't, because in other nations did not have this tradition of preserving the lineages while the Arabs had. So I know you think you got some gotcha point there, but you don't. Your argument about the covenant is flawed anyways because we don't believe in it. But even so, we're still giving you the lineage of Prophet Muhammad all the way from the Prophet himself to Ishmael. And again, secondly, I'm going to say the same thing. Nobody ever questioned that because the Arabs had a method of preserving their lineage. So they knew who each person, where did they come from. They were proud of that. They were proud of their lineages. So they would preserve them. And until this day, many Arabs still keep that tradition.
Third, I would need to see that the Quran wasn't altered underneath Uthman. Right now, we know that there's variant readings that were burned and standardization, and oral transmission was used to cover the gaps. But if it's perfectly preserved, why the controlled editing?
No, okay. The claim for Uthman, radiallahu anhu again. And he says controlled editing. Look, this is the thing. We have this story. The only way you know about the story is from our tradition. Islam was a massive empire. We're talking about a massive empire at the time of Uthman, radiallahu anhu. And Islam spread everywhere there. And now the Quran, which was now tens of years before, everyone was memorizing it already. It spread to everywhere around the continent. How now, before I even answer this absurd point, how is it possible rationally and logically for Uthman to do controlled editing? Even if he brings every copy out there, it's memorized in the hearts of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands at that time, not millions of people. How can he possibly do controlled editing? Even if he burns everything, it's memorized in the hearts of all of these people. They were memorizers, thousands of memorizers at the time of Abu Bakr, before him, 2 or 3 years after the Prophet. And the Battle of Yamama, we know about it, that we have a report of it, and the memorizers dying there. And then we have, now to respond to your point, now we have someone called Zayd ibn Thabit who collects the Quran that was written at the life of Prophet Muhammad himself, the parchments. And then when Uthman ibn Affan makes a copy, do you know what he uses? He uses that original parchments that were gathered at the time of the Prophet Muhammad himself. And then he makes a copy from the original. And then what does Uthman do? He sends these copies everywhere. And then he says, anything that disagrees with the original copy, burn it. So how is that controlled editing when what Uthman is doing is bringing Zayd ibn Thabit, the same person that collected the parchments of Quran that was written down at the time of the Prophet, and he uses the same Quran, the same original writings at the time of the Prophet, and he makes a standard version and he sends it to different cities. And then he says to the people that if anything goes against that, if anything goes against the original, literally, then burn it. And like I said, the original Quran is already memorized and in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of people. So how is it rationally possible, under what planet, for Uthman to change the Quran and do controlled editing? Now, it's obviously such an absurd claim, and it cannot be even more absurd. And like I said, it's in our tradition. The narrations mention Zayd ibn Thabit, Uthman calling Zayd ibn Thabit the same person and asking him to bring the copies and making a copy of it. All of that is in our tradition. So there's no such thing as a controlled editing. Now, obviously, he knows the only controlled editing, it's not even the non-controlled editing or the uncontrolled editing happened to the Bible. And he knows that very well now that he's a Christian, with having all of these different versions of the Bible, 66 books, 73, 82, all of these different versions. He knows that is the uncontrolled editing. So he somehow is trying to impose that on Islam. But anyways, we are answering his 5 points. Anyways.
Fourth, I would need some clear prophetic continuity from the Old Testament to Muhammad. And I'm not talking vague similarities or like randomly quoting Deuteronomy 18. Where are the direct prophecies? Because if you're the final messenger, the Bible would be building straight to you.
Now, again, a false premise. Like I said about the first point, he builds these false premises and then he expects us to answer a question that is based on a false premise. Why do we need to do that? Why do we need to prove Islam through a biblical prophecy? Like, why do we need to do that? Why can't we use Islam on its own grounds, proving that it's from God? Where is the logic in saying, oh, if Islam to be true, it must have a prophecy about Prophet Muhammad in the Bible? Why is that the case? You are using corrupt standards and then trying to hold us with these corrupt standards. And this is the thing. This shows that this person is not actually, as he claims, an ex-Muslim. And even if he were, that he's clearly not looking, like I said from the beginning, he says, I will listen. He never says, I'll come back to Islam. Because in reality, he's not really asking for an answer to his question. He's just like making up all of these false premises and false questions. So he can, you guys cannot answer me, therefore I'm going to stay a Christian, right? But anyways, like I've mentioned prophecies about Prophet Muhammad multiple times. I have videos on Isaiah 42 where it predicts Prophet Muhammad is going to come to the Gentiles. He's going to come with a new law. And he's going to go to the Arabs. Medina, Saudi Arabia specifically mentions Mountain Salah, and he's going to defeat idol worshippers, and that he's a messenger of God, that you shouldn't be blind and deaf to all. You cannot get more clear than this. So if you really want the prophecy, here you go. Isaiah 42, as clear as the sun. And like I said, I have many videos that I talked about it. Just watch one of them. And that's more than enough for you to see that. Now, what's his last point? Last great point.
And fifth, I would need to see the eyewitnesses' accounts of Muhammad's first revelations, because right now, all we have is Khadija, his wife, convincing him after a traumatic cave experience that he is a prophet. And he was scared, unlike every other prophet who might have been insulted or like, why me? They knew that they were anointed. And if the fate of all of humanity depends on this, that isn't good enough for Islam. And none of this is about Jesus. This is about Islam and its own foundations, because if the house is truly built on sand, we need to stop arguing about the furniture. We have to dissect the foundation and fix it from there. So if there's no Kaaba link, no Ishmaelite link, no preserved book, no prophetic line, and no verified calling, I can't go back.
Now, the funniest thing is everything he said is applicable to the Bible. They have zero eyewitness account. This is not about Christianity, but we're using the same argument. If the foundation is corrupt, I've already answered your questions. I'm going to answer the last one. So the foundation is not built on sand, but the foundation of Christianity is built on sand. So how are you using this argument? I'm not critiquing your own faith. Give me one eyewitness account to the crucifixion of Jesus. And don't bring me the Bible, which is written by people 300-400 years later, the earliest carbon dating you have, and tell me that's an eyewitness account, because that clearly you don't know what an eyewitness account is. And the funny thing, he says, give me an eyewitness account to the encounter of Prophet Muhammad, the angel Gabriel, the first encounter. But he knows the first encounter was the Prophet alone. So how can I give you an eyewitness to that? What kind of a ridiculous statement is that? But that's not really what he's asking. He's trying to say that give me an eyewitness account to the Prophet with an angel where he received revelation, because we cannot base everything on that encounter. But there are multiple encounters where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gets revelation from God, or the angel Gabriel comes and his companions see him. And I mentioned that multiple times before. Aisha radiallahu anha, his wife, she saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ receiving revelation. And it would be in a cold day, and the cold day of the deserts of Arabia, and he would be sweating. The other companions of the Prophet ﷺ was sitting there, and his thigh was on the thigh of one of the companions. And he felt the weight of the revelation come down, and he felt like his thigh was going to break, or his leg is going to break from the heaviness of revelation. Angel Gabriel came in the form of a man to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And we have a mass reporting of this event from Umar ibn Khattab, from other companions. They were sitting down, and Angel Gabriel came, and he asked the Prophet Muhammad some questions to teach the companions about the religion. And they observed him, and they described him as a man they've never seen before, coming with very dark hair, very white clothes. There's no signs of traveling. Why are they saying this? Because if it's a new person that we don't know of the community, how did he travel here and he has no signs of traveling? Pure white clothes, dark hair. Nobody saw him come in or out, because he was Angel Gabriel coming to Prophet Muhammad. And then the companions saw him directly talking to Prophet Muhammad and teaching people the religion. And there was other encounters. We have many, many encounters of that happening. Now you will have zero eyewitness account to the crucifixion and the resurrection. resurrection more importantly than the crucifixion. But you have no eyewitness accounts. So apply this foundation of sand to your own new faith that is probably was your faith all along and you were never a Muslim. But if it's a new faith, then you're actually shooting yourself at the foot by these claims. And what you need to do actually right now is to leave Christianity, because you've just refuted it with these 5 points that you made.
يا من صنعتم في الأرض نورا يا قلوبا فيها الوفاء بشركم اليوم السرور